On the night of September 22, 1632, the prioress of a small Ursuline convent in Loudun, France, woke to find a figure standing at the foot of her bed. It wore the robes of a clergyman. It asked her for help. She was not the only one who saw it. 2 other nuns in separate cells reported the same visitor that same night. Within days, the convent was gripped by convulsions, foreign voices, and violent fits that no physician of the era could explain. By the time it ended, a man would be burned alive in the town square, and historians are still divided on what actually happened inside those walls. Was this genuine demonic possession, as the Church declared, a case of mass psychological contagion, as some scholars now argue? Or something else entirely, a diagnosis shaped less by medicine and more by who benefited from the verdict? To understand what happened at Loudun, you have to understand the town itself. In 1632, Loudun was a fault line. Catholics and Protestant Huguenots had coexisted there for decades, an uneasy peace the French crown was actively trying to end. Cardinal Richelieu wanted the town's fortifications torn down, a symbol of Huguenot independence he could not tolerate. That same year, plague swept through the streets, killing hundreds. Fear was already the town's native language before the convent ever spoke. At the center of this was a parish priest named Urbain Grandier. He was, by every surviving account, an unusually magnetic man, handsome, well-educated, and one of the most sought-after preachers in the region. He had also made himself several powerful enemies. He had written a pamphlet against clerical celibacy, courted the daughter of a royal counselor, and publicly humiliated rivals within the church hierarchy. Grandier believed his talent made him untouchable in the world he lived in. That was a dangerous belief to hold. The prioress of the Ursuline convent, a young noblewoman named Jean de Laubardemont, had reportedly requested Grandier as her convent's confessor, and had reportedly been refused. In an era when spiritual reputation was currency, that refusal was not a small thing. This was a society that did not doubt the existence of demons. Possession was not superstition to a 17th century French Catholic. It was an accepted, almost clinical category of affliction, complete with its own diagnostic signs: contortion, sudden foreign languages, aversion to sacred objects. When the nuns began convulsing, no one in Loudun needed to be convinced that something real was happening to them. The only question was what and whose fault it was. The first exorcisms began on October 5, 1632, private at first, then within weeks staged in public before crowds that swelled into the thousands. People traveled from other provinces to watch. The nuns, now including the prioress herself, screamed accusations, spoke in voices not their own, and named their tormentor Urbain Grandier, had signed a pact with the devil, they said, and sent demons to occupy their bodies. Based on the surviving trial records and eyewitness testimony collected by investigators here, is what the proceedings likely looked like from the inside. Theologians were dispatched from Poitiers to examine the nuns directly. Some were skeptical from the start. The local bailiff of Loudun wrote letters later intercepted before they reached Paris, arguing the whole affair was in his word, an imposture, a fabrication. This is where the case becomes less a ghost story and more a study in how power selects its own truth. 3 explanations circulated for what was happening to the nuns. The first, the nuns were faking it, coached or coerced into performance by exorcists who had their own reasons to keep the spectacle running. The second one, raised by modern scholars looking back at similar convent outbreaks in this period, was ergotism poisoning from a fungus called Claviceps purpurea, which thrives on rye left damp and improperly stored. In a famine year, when grain reserves ran short and desperate towns took whatever rye they could get spoiled, stock was far more likely to reach the table, and with it, the convulsions, muscle spasms, and vivid hallucinations the fungus is known to produce. The third explanation was the one the court ultimately needed to be true, that Urbain Grandier was guilty of sorcery. Every one of the first 2 explanations would have cost the investigation its verdict. Only the third came with a man already standing trial. In November 1633, A royal commissioner named Jean de Laubardemont was sent to investigate and quickly became the architect of Grandier's downfall. Letters defending Grandier were suppressed. A decree was issued forbidding anyone from appealing the proceedings on penalty of a fine, later on penalty of death, for even publicly doubting the possessions at all. That detail matters more than almost anything else in this story. The court did not simply reach a conclusion. It made disagreement with that conclusion illegal. Grandier was arrested and imprisoned at Angers. When he was finally brought back to Loudun in the summer of 1634, he was made to sit through the very exorcisms performed on the women who accused him. At one point ordered to attempt an exorcism himself to prove or disprove his own guilt in front of the crowd that had already decided. On August 18, 1634, the Royal Commission delivered its verdict. Urbain Grandier was found guilty of causing the demonic possession of the Ursuline nuns of Loudun. He was executed that same day. Contemporary accounts note that under torture he never confessed. He maintained his innocence to the end. What happened next is the part historians tend to sit with longest. The exorcisms did not stop when Grandier died. They continued for years afterward, touring Jean des Anges through other towns as something between a penitent and a celebrity of the possessed. Several of the exorcists who had led the proceedings did not go on to quiet lives. Court records and later biographical accounts describe more than one of them dying in a state of mental collapse within years of the trial's end, the very affliction they claimed to be curing seemingly following them home. We will likely never have a single tidy answer for what happened inside that convent in 1632. Genuine psychological contagion, undiagnosed illness, theatrical coercion, and outright political convenience were probably all present at once, tangled past separating. What the surviving record makes unmistakably clear is something else. Once a town, a court, and a cardinal all had reason to want the same verdict. The actual cause of the nuns' suffering stopped being the question anyone was trying to answer. Loudun didn't need the truth. It needed someone to blame, and it built a diagnosis to fit him. What does it take today for a room full of experts to reach the verdict everyone already needed?